welcome to the second episode of my knitting podcast. My name is Teresa, also known as Knitting Hood on Instagram, which is why this podcast is called the Knitting Hood podcast. I am filming and living, obviously, in the south of Germany, and I want to share everything about my knits and crafts with you all. So glad that you are here, and I guess let's dive on in because I have a little preamble to this. So my last podcast is 3 weeks ago, which, like, on one hand it feels like it was yesterday, and on the other hand it feels like it was ages ago. That is why I decided to film today. I'm not too sure if I can show you a lot, but I thought I want to keep it regular, so let's see. I'm not the fastest knitter, maybe as a little note, but yeah, I think we'll have some stuff to chat about. Yeah, so I guess let's dive on in with the thing I'm wearing, which is also my finished object. And this is the No Basic Sweater by Ann-Kathrin Stoll, who I did a test knit for this sweater. I finished it on the 22nd of June, which is now, I guess, over a week ago, and I've already worn it a lot. And that says a lot about me, because normally when I finish a knit and I instantly wear it, I like it, and if I finish it and I don't wear it, then it just stays unworn, let's say. So about this sweater, it is knit in La Mana Como. I believe it was the color Silbergrau, like silver gray, and I would say it's more of a beige, but it is definitely a cool beige, so I kind of get why they had the gray in the color name. Yeah, it used 4mm needles for this one, but I am a very tight knitter, so I think you would get away with knitting it on, I don't know, 3.5mm as well. Yes, and I only used 250 grams, which is also the reason why I've worn it a lot. It is very lightweight. I don't know if you can see it. It has, like, the drape on this is unreal, and I think that's because it is so light. Like, they are treating their Como yarn in a way that makes it half the weight of a normal DK yarn. And that is totally true. Like I said, I only use 250 grams, but like the meterage is the same as for a standard DK yarn, where you would then use 500 grams. So I really like it. Also for the more transitional period that we have here in Germany, because like on some days it is really hot, like 30 degrees, but then we also have days where it's like 15, and so on these 15-degree days I kind of like to throw this on. Yeah, and I also think why it's so wearable in the warmer months is because of the V-neck that this one has. It is done in double knitting, which I really love. I think it gives a very sleek look. And I also like that the V is very shallow, it's not as deep, so I think it's very wearable. I'm just wearing like a cami underneath, and I think it works nicely with my closet. Maybe one more thing about the pattern, which is very cool. In the pattern you have the option for a crew neck or a V-neck, and I obviously did the V-neck. But then also not only stockinette, but a cabled pattern. So that is very cool, I think. And for the construction of the sweater, I will insert B-roll, I guess, because I don't think I can show you very well while sitting. You have these kind of saddles here that transition into this panel, and like at first you do the two panels, like you do a front panel and a back panel, and it then looks really weird because you have these two flaps and just a hole for your head to go through, like for the neckband. And then you pick up along the sides, like along this seam here, and then you knit like this side panel and the arms out of it. And yeah, as a like long time knitter, like I've been knitting since I'm 16, maybe even earlier. That was a really cool construction. I've never done anything like it. Yeah, maybe I can show. Like you have these side panels where I said you pick up, and then you also join them here, like you knit this way and you join them with a 3 needle bind off. Yeah, it's very cool. The sleeves are also kind of relaxed, and you end with a small ribbing. Yeah, I really like how it turned out. The only thing that I would note is it did turn out a little bit too long for me. I knitted exactly to pattern, and I'm, for reference, 165 centimeters tall. But it did turn out a bit long. It was a bit hard for me to estimate how long it will get, because when you knit the front and back panel, you knit it to a certain length, and I used the one that was stated in the pattern. And then when you go and pick up the stitches from here, you kind of create a situation where if you wanted to rip back to change the length, you would have to rip back not only the side seam, but also your whole sleeve. And no, I cannot be bothered to do so. Yeah, so that is maybe the only downside of this pattern, that kind of the length that it turns out to be, it will be, because you would essentially have to reknit the whole thing. Yeah, but I will insert some b-roll. I mean, it is a bit longer, but also that's maybe not bad, because I tend to crop my sweaters too much, and then I don't wear them because they are so cropped. And I mean, I can always just tuck it in, or yeah, but I like it. It's also very roomy. I like the fit. Oh, and one thing I also like is it kind of creates these lines here that you would also have like with a set-in, is it a set-in sleeve construction? Contiguous sleeve? You know, the ones where you don't get a raglan line that goes out, but rather down. I also wouldn't say a drop shoulder, because the line is more out here on your arm. Yeah, I really like the fit that it gives with this line, because when you sit, it sits exactly where your shoulder ends and your arm begins, and it looks really flattering. I like it. Yeah, and it also has it on the back, but I will insert a video like I said. So, big recommendation for this one. I really liked knitting it. And I believe I didn't say, I knit the size XS, which on me has a lot of positive ease. Like, I noted it down in Ravelry. Let's see if I can quickly find it. How much positive ease it has. Yeah, it has 22 centimeters of positive ease. Yeah, it has a finished bust circumference of 112 centimeters. Yeah, I'm really trying to like note down the measurements of stuff in my Ravelry, because I like to compare my knits to my other knits and see if I like the fit, and yeah, replicate it. So yeah, that's a good fit. One modification I did was for the sleeves. Somehow she tells you to do a certain number of decrease sets, let's call it. Like we have these, there you can see these sets of decreases, like you decrease here and then it's just stockinette, and then you decrease here again, and she tells you a number of sets to do, and then doing a rapid decrease round just right before the cuff. But somehow, and that's just to do with my row gauge, I guess, when I finished the sets of decreases, my sleeve was only like this long. So I was like, should I just continue on with the stockinette and then do a rapid decrease? But I thought that could look weird. So I checked with Ann-Kathrin and we decided that I should just incorporate the stitches that she would rapidly decrease around the cuff into this length here and do another decrease set that is a bit shorter. Like I decreased, I guess, 2 stitches less. So when I also was here right before the cuff, I had the same amount of stitches that you would have if you did the rapid decrease, but I decreased slowly to get more length, if that makes any sense. Yeah, so that's the only modification I did. I'm really happy with it. All right, finished object out of the way. Oh, I also thought I would mention it's not a finished object and not what I'm wearing, but it's a knitted thing that is sitting around here. And that is actually my Stella quilt cushion by Laura Penrose. I finished this last year and it is sitting in various locations in my flat. And yeah, right now it sits on my chair. So yeah, I really like it. It's a scrappy project. Do check it out if you don't know it already. Yeah, just gonna take a sip of my coffee because it's in the morning here. It is 20 to 10 on a Saturday. Yeah, random info that I guess you don't need. Alrighty, I do have another finished object, and that wasn't even a work in progress last time. So together with my knitting friend Simone from Hooked on Knitting, we decided to start a Technicolor Purse by Petite Knit because we both had a lot of fingering weight scraps lying around. And last December I did a little advent calendar with Simone where we looked into our stash and picked out yarn that we ourselves aren't using anymore, maybe because of color or fiber preference, and then we did little packages for each Advent Sunday with a project in mind, and we then sent it over as a little Advent package to one another. And she was so kind and sent me a little kit, let's say, for a Technicolor Purse. It included the zipper and a lining fabric and some yarn, and that's exactly what we started 2 weeks ago or last week. I can't remember. Yeah, we did a little Zoom call where we started the purse, and I kind of had a massive hyper focus on it, and I finished the knitting part of it in 2 days because I was just so obsessed with the color developing. And here it is. I think it turned out pretty cool. We have a white, yellow, light blue, and this is a very dark blue. Yeah, there you can see. And the Technicolor Purse uses 3 strands of fingering weight yarn held together, and there is a chart that tells you which colors to use for each strand. Like sometimes you use 3 strands of the same color, sometimes it's 2 of one color and 1 of another, or 3 different ones, and that is how you get this nice transition here, which I really like. Yeah, you also have a zipper and these little flaps that are done in double knitting, and it's not complicated. Like you start with a Judy's Magic cast on and then just knit in the round, and this pattern is just slipping stitches and knitting stitches. That's it, so don't be intimidated. Yeah, then you also have a zipper here. This is one of the fancy Petite Knit ones. And then I did a horrible job of lining this because somehow it turned out a bit bigger. I mean, I didn't do a gauge swatch because I thought, nah, it's just a purse. But yeah, it turned out a bit bigger, or the sizing was a bit off, and then I cut the lining fabric and I tried to accommodate for the different size, but I don't think I was very successful, so yeah, it's a bit wonky, don't judge me. But we do have this cute floral lining which matches the colors, and yeah, that's what I meant. It's a bit, I had to bunch it up a bit to get it in there, but I thought it's just a purse, no one cares, and yeah. But I think I did a nice job of sewing in the zipper because it doesn't get caught in any of the yarn, and it's also not that visible, so yeah. It was a nice project. The only thing that was a bit nah, I used the German version of the pattern and there were just things missing. For example, it didn't tell you how to bind off at all. Also for the little thingies here, no idea how you would call that in English, the handles. It also didn't tell you to like how many strands of yarn to use, because this is knit on a 5mm needle and the handles, I will just call them, are done in double knitting, and it said 3mm needles, and I was like, do I then also use 3 strands? That seems a bit thick and much looking at the photos. And then I checked the English version, because when you buy on Ravelry you get the like all the languages, and there it said it. So it was just right out missing in the German pattern. So if you're also doing this, the handles are done with 2 strands only, and you bind off in pattern. And there is also a video by Camille Munkholm how to bind off in pattern, but I didn't think to look there because I thought it would just say in the pattern. So that was all a bit weird, and yeah, I'm not used to that by Petite Knit, to be honest. Normally her patterns don't have any flaws or stuff missing, so that was a bit of a disappointment, but I also think it wasn't Petite Knit's fault, it was the translation that was kind of a bit off. Yeah, so heads up, if you knit this, maybe do either the original, like Danish, if you can read it, or use the English one. Can I say something else? Yes, I can. So this is the size medium, and in the pattern it says that for you need like the most yarn you will need for the size M is 22 grams, and that was totally off for me. I think for the, like, this concerns the white part or the one you choose to do up and down here, and for the handles. I think it used 30, over 30. I used a lot more than she stated, and it didn't turn out so much bigger than in the pattern, so I wouldn't think that it's 10 grams more. Yeah, so maybe don't play yarn chicken and only have 22 grams, because maybe that won't work out. All right, that's it for this one. And like I said, I had a little bit of a hyper focus, so of course I did another one. That one is almost finished, I would say. It's this one. I had a look around in my like scrappy box and found these yarns, and I was inspired by this lining fabric that I already put in there. Like, I will use this fabric here, I already sewed it. This flower motif, it looks a bit like a meadow, and that is what inspired me to go for like a green speckled in there, and there is also some pink, like this is not white, it's a rose color. Yeah, I also used more colors. Like one color I split up into 2, so I could use up a lot of scraps. And yeah, when I was finished, I didn't really love the whole orange chunk here, so I went in and stitched some very basic flowers in there. I just did like I stitched a little bit up and then down and then to the sides, and then I looked up on YouTube how to do a sewing knot for the center of the flowers. So really basic. I don't know how to... Is it called sewing? No. Stitching. It's called stitching. I'm sorry. I don't know how to stitch. So I just looked up stuff on YouTube. So I think it turned out really pretty. Yeah, I still have to sew in the lining and the zipper, but I had a little bit of a trauma while doing the blue one, because it is a lot of effort to hand sew the zipper and stuff. So that's something I still have to do. Yeah. Oh, and then also a thing I found out. So this is the petite knit zipper, and like in Germany they retail for around 6 or 7 euros depending on what length you want, and I found that a bit expensive, but I also wanted this zipper handle again. I don't know, this thing on the zipper. I wanted it to look like this one, and I saw that it is a YKK zipper, like the standard good quality zippers you can get. So I just typed in YKK zipper, I think antique, for the color of the medal, and then 18 centimeters for this one. And I found that on Hobby you can get these zippers, like the YKK antique zippers, in the exact measurements that Petite Knit uses, but it's not Petite Knit branded. Like it isn't in a... Normally when you buy from Petite Knit you get these plastic bags with a card and a label and the zipper. So that is of course more expensive, but yeah, I just bought them like not branded, and they are the exact same things. They also have the same colors. So a little tip, if you don't need the label, just search for YKK zipper antique and you will get the exact same zipper, but for half the price. Yeah, so that's what I did. Alright, I think I have rambled on for ages already, and I thought I don't have a lot to show, so let's get through this. So that's it for finished objects. For my works in progress, I don't have anything really exciting to show. I worked on my Franky Genser, this one here. This green sweater. It's by Sandnes Garn, and it uses Sandnes Garn Kos in the color Jelly Bean Green. And on my last episode I asked you if you thought that this color suits me, and a lot of people were saying that they like the color, so I powered through, and I actually knit a lot. I thought I didn't knit much, but I actually did. This is where I last showed it to you, so I did do a good, I don't know, 18 centimeters on this. I don't think it's 20, but 18. And one thing why I think it's been easier for me to work on this is I changed to wooden needles. I normally don't like wooden needles. Like when they touch each other and scrape along each other, it gives me a sensory ick. I don't know. But somehow on the metal needles, the Kos, it just slipped and slided around, and it wasn't pleasant to work with. So I decided to try wooden needles, and I have the Qiaogu interchangeable set, like the metal one, and then I just looked up the bamboo tips because I knew they had some, and I can just put it on my cables, which is really nice. I accidentally ordered the smaller size, like they have, I think it's, is it 13 and 11 centimeters or 15 and 13, something like that, and I ordered the smaller size. I regret that. But I also didn't want to return them, so here we are. Yeah, and I'm using this for the course and it works a lot better. So yeah, maybe I'm getting into wooden needles for these more slippery kind of yarns. Yeah, what the plan is for this. I want to use up this ball of yarn. I have this much left over. And then I will try it on again. I tried it on like a few centimeters ago, but it wasn't long enough. So I will knit up this whole yarn ball and then I will try it on again and see if I like it. And maybe then just put, like cut the yarn so I have enough left over for an Italian bind off, and then put it on barber cords and wash and see if it grew a lot. And then I will do the Italian bind off after it's dry, because that's also what I will be doing for, whoops, for the sleeves. Let's see, but I see a light at the end of the tunnel, and I also promised myself that I won't start anything new until this is finished. So yeah, I think I will knit on this today a bit more. So that's the update on the Franky Genser. If you want to know more about it, you can watch my first episode. I talk about it a bit more, but you have already seen this if you've watched the first one. So the same goes for my June top and my Sophie Scarf. So just a little brief heads up. I am doing a June top by Petite Knit, and it is connected to 3 balls of yarn, which makes this a mess. I'm doing a June top again by Petite Knit in 100% linen yarn by Wollen Berlin, a German yarn store. And I have not knit on this since the last episode, which makes me think I had a lot of plans for summer knits this year, but it's already end of July and I'm not even like really into my summer project. So I doubt that I will do a lot of summer knitting this year. Somehow it got, somehow this got, how do you call it? It got shoved away by my hyper focus on the Technicolor Purse. So that's that. And I also did maybe a few rows on my red Sophie Scarf, also by Petite Knit. Here it is. Ugh. I did a few more rows, but nothing exciting. This is my travel knitting. Like whenever I need something easy to carry with me, I will use this. And it lives in this cute little drawstring pouch. I got it off of Etsy from a person called by Claude, not too sure, but it has this corduroy fabric. I like it a lot for the smaller projects. One more work in progress, but it is kind of a hybrid between a finished object and a work in progress. So a few years ago, I think 2 years ago, I made the Semper sweater by the Knit Pearl Girl. Here it is in this brown color. It used a 100% alpaca yarn by Knit Loop, which was a German yarn brand, but they don't exist anymore, so it's a 100% alpaca fingering weight strand, held with Lana Grossa Cashmere Gazzato, which also got discontinued, like the yarn quality, and it was a heavier lace weight yarn. And they made this beautiful fabric. I really like the drape on this. It's also really soft and light. So all good. Also the pattern was good. I think I had some sizing issues when I made it, so I had to size down a bit. But the main thing about this, I like the fit a lot, and the length and everything, and the yarn feels nice. What I don't like is the color on me. It is a really yellowish, greenish brown. Like, I always compare it to my hair color. My hair color is a lot cooler and more chocolatey, I would say. And it just doesn't match with this more yellow brown. I had a brown face and I wanted to knit everything in brown, but then I found out that I don't suit every shade of brown. So I made an effort to wear it and I wore it, and when I saw myself in the like I work a lot in home office and do a lot of video calls, and I saw myself wearing this in a video call and I was like, no way, I don't feel comfortable in this color anymore. I want to do something about it. So I did a little research about dyeing your hand knits, and I found out that it actually is not that easy, because most of the fabric dyes that you can buy, you need to put them into the washing machine and at a high temperature. And obviously with your hand knits you shouldn't put them in the washing machine, and also and especially not at a high temperature. So I was a bit lost because I also don't want this to shrink or anything. It has a good size. So I went down a little rabbit hole, and then like at first I looked at the ones you put into the washing machine. Then I came across some fabric dye that is used in costume design, like film, like movies and series, where they also need to dye like woolen fabrics, but that also wasn't what I was looking for, especially because they were all like washable, like they like for these costume dyes, the purpose was that you can wash and like destroy clothes also to make them look worn, and that is obviously not what I want. But then I found out that there is a yarn brand that does fabric dye, and they also do cold fabric dye, and that leads me kind of into my acquisitions, because I found that Ito, which is a yarn brand, they do cold dye all in black. Oh, because I wanna dye this thing black to make it my perfect basic black sweater. And I also thought like dyeing stuff darker, like with hair, it's always easier than bleaching. So I thought, well, this to black isn't that big of a jump, so it should work, I guess. Yeah, then I found a online yarn store that carried this, and it seems like Ito has a hot dye and a cold dye, and the hot dye is supposed to transfer color better than the cold dye, but like I said, this is 100% alpaca, cashmere, cotton. I don't want to wash this in 60-degree water, so I went for the cold dye. And you have to heat this dye up to, I believe, 40 degrees Celsius. But I also found that Maschenfein, also a German online yarn store, they did a blog article about using these dyes. And they tried the hot dye, and they recommend that you just, like, you heat up your dyeing water. Then you put your knit in, and you don't touch it until the water cools down a bit. And the person who wrote the blog article said that it shrinked a little teeny bit, but they also used the hot dye. So yeah. So I got 2 of those because they are sufficient for 250 grams of fabric, and this has around, I don't know, 350, 400. Yeah, so I will try this. Maybe not this weekend, and I also don't think I have time next weekend, but I guess in August I will try this. You have to put vinegar and salt in along with this to dye natural fibers. And yeah, oh, it also says it's not 40 degrees, it's 30 degrees minimum. Yeah, and it dyes plant fibers like cotton, hemp, linen, rayon, wood, bamboo, and cupra, and also animal fibers like silk, wool, nylon. Yeah, let's see how this goes. I did a little vloggy type video already where I rambled about my research a lot, and I will film it. I will film myself dye, because I already thought about dyeing this once before in winter, and I asked on Insta stories if anyone had dyed their knitted fabric before, and I also did a little search on YouTube, and I couldn't really find anyone. And I mean, it is common that maybe you want to change the color of your knits so you can wear them, so let's see. I will keep you updated, and I will do a little video of how it goes, and if it fails big time, you will also know. Alright, that is what brings us into acquisitions already. I have one more. I bought the zippers on Hobby for my Technicolor Purse. And then I also bought some zippers for my mom, because she is doing a zipper sweater light for my grandma. And I have the honors of putting the zipper in because, yeah, she doesn't want to faff around, and I said I can do it. So I bought that, and then also my mom was so hooked on the zipper sweater light that she now wants to do one for my dad. So I also purchased one that will then go into this zipper sweater. And I needed to add some value to my chart in order to not pay shipping. You know the struggle, I believe. And so I thought, okay, what can I buy from Hobby, because they have okay yarn, but none of the yarns really spoke to me a lot. But then I remembered that my sister visited my parents' house, and she went into my closet and got some of my knitted socks, and she then sent me a photo and said, oh, if you are ever bored, I would like some of those. Like with this pattern. And these are so old. Like, they also look really worn. They are so old that I didn't even have Instagram back then, and I looked at Pinterest photos of knitted socks, and then I always tried to figure out how they did it, because I didn't really know that patterns are a thing. That is one of those. So it was actually pretty cool, because this pattern consists only of 2 rows, and you only ever, I believe, like 1 row is 1 color. Yeah, you can see it down here where you don't do the slip stitches. Like, it's basically just you alternate colors on each round. But man, how was this? I think the color changing yarn is always knit stitches, and the white yarn is it was it Knits and Pearls? Yeah, I believe it was. You knit 1 purl 1 for the white, but I will need to find out again if I want to make one for her, so I can then tell you exactly how I did it. And I'm also, I don't know, like right now I'm really feeling these smaller projects, like the Technicolor Purse, the Sophie Scarf. I'm into smaller projects at the moment, like for some reason, I don't know. Yeah, so long story short, I needed to buy some lighter sock yarn, because I don't have any. So I looked what they had, and Hobby carries this France sock wool. It was very cheap, just a standard sock yarn, like wool and nylon. They didn't have white, but I also didn't really care, so I got the next lighter color they had. It's the color, does it say? Yeah, 118. I think it was called Silver. And it is actually a very similar color to my sweater. Yeah, so a cool beige. And I want to pair it with, I have two options. I have some leftover yarn of this mysterious sock yarn. So I think that would make a really nice high contrast. It does have some lighter parts where I think you wouldn't then see the change, but I guess that's also fine. So I could do this combination, or I could do this combination, but I'm really unsure because this has even more lighter parts. So I think in my mind I already decided. Oh man, no, I don't know. What would you go for this kind of sock? Let me know. But now that I see it, I think this one, because it has a higher contrast. And it's also like a leftover, and I think it will be enough for this. Maybe I will also try them toe up, so I can make the most of it. Yeah, so that is also my plan for my next cast on. Because I want to then cast it on and give it to her at some point. Yeah. Oh, and another plan I have. I was really inspired by all of these knit purses. And do you know? I need your help. I want to know. I want to make a purse in this color. This is double Sunday, so a DK weight yarn. And I made my boyfriend a 1x1 ribbed hat. I don't think I followed a pattern. But the double Sunday is really floppy somehow, and it always looked so weird on his head. It clung to his head really weirdly, and it didn't look good at all. It looked shapeless. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's too soft. So I'm thinking about ribbing this, and I have more of it. Yeah, I have more of this. I think I have 200 grams in total, and I think I want to make a small purse for me, like with a strap, with a black strap. So if you have any recommendations for purse patterns where you can attach a strap that uses DK weight yarn, please tell me, because I want to get this out of its head form. And that is the end of my knitting stuff that I have to show you. But one more thing. I didn't knit as much as I normally do in the last 3 weeks. And that is why, and that is because when I sewed the lining for my Technicolor Purse, like these thingies here, I obviously had to get out my sewing machine. And then I also had a little bit of a craze where I cleaned up my yarn stash, and my yarn stash is next to my fabric stash. And I noticed that I had a lot of sewing fabric lying around from a sewing phase I had. And then I thought, okay, now that I have my sewing machine out and I am sewing this, I could also use up some of my fabric and sew myself a skirt, which I then did. I just want to briefly touch on this because I mean, this is a knitting podcast, but this is also kind of a craft, and I know that a lot of knitters sew, so I'll just use a few minutes. So I sewed myself a gingham skirt. This one, it's an A-line skirt, a little bit longer, with a elastic at the top. And then, as normal for me, the hyperfocus took totally over. And yeah, I made this skirt, but then I also made myself a pair of... the pockets are sticking out. I made myself a pair of pajama pants with pockets. And then I thought I have an event next weekend where you kind of have to get a bit dressed up. And I thought, yeah, well, let's do a linen summer dress that is gathered with elastic ties. And I also found a video by Rosary Apparel, I think, where she does this rectangle dress. And it looked really simple because you just have to cut out a few rectangles of fabric. And then, yeah, the video is 10 minutes long. I thought, okay, this cannot take longer than one day. Well, last weekend I did nothing but sew on this dress. Because first cutting out rectangles of a fabric that is like one solid color, not easy. And then also the sizing was a bit off and it turned out ginormous. And then I had to go back in and cut, and it has pockets. And when I cut the sides, I had to remove the pockets, and it was a whole thing. So that's what I did the last weeks, and it's still not finished. Oh my god. It is this little number here. It's a linen fabric, and it also has a lining and pockets and is gathered up here. And I have to insert more elastic up here and shorten it a lot. So yeah, that's where all of my creative energy went. And one thing I really appreciate about knitting, like you can knit and do other stuff while you knit, like watch something, listen to an audiobook. Some people even read. I cannot do that. But yeah, I don't know, you can do other stuff. But with sewing, or maybe because I'm a total beginner, I should have said I don't know anything. With sewing, my mind, body, and everything is totally 100% occupied by sewing. I forgot to eat, I forgot to drink. Yeah, it was a whole thing. I stayed up way past my bedtime. Yeah. So that's what I did for creative outlet. The last weeks, that is why I haven't knit a lot, but I thought I would do a podcast nonetheless, because I now see I've already rambled for 45 minutes. So yeah, that's it. That's all of the crafty things I did in the last 3 weeks. And so I will keep you posted about the dyeing of my sweater. I want to finish the Franky Genser, and I think I will, yeah, next time we see each other, it will be finished. Then I want to sew in the lining of my second Technicolor purse. And yeah, I think I'm in a good place. I want to start, next I want to start either the socks for my sister, because I have not done socks in a very long time, or I want to start the Carina shawl that I talked about in my last episode. I'm not too sure, and I thought I would do summer knits this year, but yeah, maybe I will do a t-shirt, because that can also be worn in winter. But I have to finish my June top first. So not that much into summer knitting this year, it seems. Thank you for joining me. I will end this now before I ramble on about random stuff. See you next time. Either it's gonna be the dyeing video or another podcast. Oh, or also I thought I would do my favorite knits of all time. That would also be cool. Let's see how much time I get. So have a great weekend, everyone, and see you in the next one. Happy knitting!